Okay, so we've already talked about how to log into the software, how to upload to the software, and how to submit your work. But we haven't talked about what happens when you need to submit work, but you already have work in there. So let's discuss that. First, let's launch StudioWorks so we can actually look at what we're talking about. And so 613.414, your username, your password, which you should know. Oops, try that again. Probably means I typoed. There we go. Our welcome screen. The content section that we talked about, and our pages. So you'll need to find your page. Your page is not going to change for the most part. At some point during the year it will have to change because we'll have to actually use these pages for the book. But until we get to that point, you're going to be using the same page. So the page that I've been working on so far is 143. Now this is actually going to be someone else's page, but I'm just using this for this example to show you what to do until you guys actually start using these. So if I go to 143, now one thing to note, when you're on your pages, make sure you're clicking on your page and not in the middle. If you're clicking in the middle, it opens both, and whoever needs to be on this page won't be able to work on it until you get off of their page. So make sure that you're on your page only, not on both. And you can see when you hover over it whether it's going to open one page, both pages, or just yours. You can see one of my previous assignments, the Red Ribbon Week. Now, I filled out most of it, but you can see obviously my captions are lacking, so that would be not a great grade. Even though I've got some nice photos, and quite a few of them, without the captions, the grade is still going to be rather weak because you're missing basically half of the contents. So, that aside, let's talk about how do I actually put additional assignments on here. Because I could go in and delete this, but then this content isn't there anymore, and I can't see what I've submitted before, and that's not ideal either. Now in the content section we know we have the photos, and we know we also have modules, and my modules, and this is where we have the different templates to submit our photos. Now I could just drag another one of these on, but then what do I do with the current one? I could group them and drag them off the screen, kind of like how this one is currently off the screen. But that's not great either, because then you end up with all this stuff around and it's hard to find stuff. So what do we do? So if I go into my inspector and I go to page, we have some little tabs here. And the one I want to bring out, and the one I want to mention specifically, is layers. Just like Photoshop, this also has layers. And we can put multiple things on them. And we can rename them, and we can create new layers. And when we have more than one layer, we can also remove them. And so that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be using multiple layers. So I'm going to rename this, and maybe this is OOC1. Or I guess for you it'd be 2, because scavenger hunt was number 1, and so Red Ribbon Week. So I know which assignment it was, and I know what the actual content was. Now I'm going to add a new layer, and maybe this is my summer photos. And I can hide this if I want, or I can lock it, or I can make it visible. And so by doing that, I can have multiple assignments on the same page without having to get rid of the ones that I previously had, or without ending up with a whole bunch of weird clutter. So now that I have a summer photos layer, I'll make sure that I have it selected, so I'm building on that layer. And I can go into my contents, and I can add in stuff for that. Now if I go back to my content and I go to my summer photos, I can see here that I don't have very many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which isn't great, but that's what I have. So now I can add the 8 up for that. And I can ungroup it just like shown before. Put in my name. Put in the assignments. And I can start dropping these in. Now there's actually 2 issues with my summer photos. One, I don't have very many, But 2, and perhaps even worse, well, actually 3 issues. I guess 2 would be the fact that these are all low quality because they were downloaded from Facebook instead of the actual original images, so the quality isn't great. And then 3, lastly, none of these photos actually have anybody in them. And even though they show some nice pictures in part of Africa, who is going to buy the book? Is this bird going to buy a book? No. Is this giraffe going to buy a book? No. Is this cactus? No. Is whatever dead animal this jawbone came from? No. So, what's the point in using these photos? So even though they're nice and pretty, or at least some of them are, who's going to buy them? So, the summer photos, ideally, hopefully, actually have pictures of whoever wins. Now, if we show both layers at the same time, this works a little differently from Photoshop in that whatever is on top in this layers panel is not on top on here. So, which doesn't really actually matter because we're not going to be viewing them all at once anyways. We're going to be hiding and showing just the current one. But that is just something to let you know if that bothers you. And you should have them in order. Like, don't have like OOC3 up here and OOC2 here and OOC4 down here and summer photos in the middle and the project somewhere else. Like, try to keep them organized. And obviously have whichever one's showing is the current one when you save it. So I've got some summer photos also with no captions, which isn't great. So 2 bad grades there. I'm going to add one more layer, and this will be the photo project. And for this one, I would go back to Contents and go to my modules once again and add in the photo project. And then I would need to ungroup it and start dropping these in once I've uploaded them. And you can see it's organized: portraits of person name here, images of artifact or object here, and location shots, name of place here. And then a rule of thirds, fill the frame, negative space, camera angles. So it should be pretty easy for you to understand what to do. I have the caption bit here, although I didn't really ask that much about captions in general. So just kind of explain what the photo's of and maybe where you are, kind of what you're taking a picture of or what was going on. And if you need help, just let me know. And we can go back to the inspector again, and we can add in another one for my next OOC, which a couple people have already done, and which I already took shots on Friday night of the zombie scavenger hunts. And we can hide that, and then I can drop this in here. Contents, my modules. Now I took quite a few, probably around 150, 200 photos. I'm not actually sure how many came out because I haven't edited them yet. So I'm going to wait before adding one of these modules on here to actually go in and look at my photos and decide which ones I like before uploading them here. Now I did mention that I haven't edited my photos yet, and I do normally edit my photos. If you're editing your photos, don't delete your originals. I said that in the videos talking about editing, but I'm also saying it here. Don't delete your originals. Because if your editing isn't very good, because maybe you're new to it and still learning how to do it, we need to be able to have the originals to be able to use those or fix those if there are some issues with your edited versions. Not only that, but depending on how you edit them, it might not feel right with the rest of the layout or the rest of the page if the other photos were edited in a different way. So if you want to edit your photos and upload them, that's fine, but also make sure that you upload the original photo for each one of those as well, so that way if it doesn't fit with the rest of the pictures in there, we can edit it ourselves to make it feel like the rest and not make it feel weird or unusual. So, even though I took a lot of photos, I'm guessing it's probably going to end up being 12 up just because lighting in the building isn't great, and then when it's nighttime and there's even less light and I can only rely on the building's light, it's probably going to be even worse. But like I said, I'm going to wait to do this part until I actually edit or go through those photos. So for right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and leave on my summer photos because those are the most recent ones that I have submitted. And I'll save, and I'll close, and I'll log out.